Hello my dear students. Today we are going to take up a very important topic from our second book Vistas, and the title is On the Face of It. This is a play which is written by Suzanne Hill. Let us understand about the writer Suzanne Hill before we go into the text, because the problem which is mentioned in the text can be reflected in her life as well. Suzanne Hill was born in Scarborough in England on 5th February 1942. She is a prolific writer and has authored many novels, collection of short stories and children's fiction. She is a revered critic, reviewer and editor. She became interested in theatre very early in her life, and she liked the sound and smells of theatre. She had to undergo tragic circumstances which include the death of her first partner, second child, and her own near-death experience. She is anaphylactic. She was extremely allergic. In her semi-autobiographical novel, In the Springtime of the Year 1974, she talks a great deal about loss, sense of loneliness and isolation, and is reminiscent of Derek in the play On the Face of It. Let's discuss about the title, On the Face of It. If we see in the dictionary, it means something at the surface level. When we look at something, the way it appears, that is the meaning of on the face of it. But when we go closer to it, in order to understand, our definition changes. It is like seeing an iceberg in the ocean. The person which is floating on the water is not the true identity. There is huge mass beneath the water. The same happens to human being as well. We might know a person at surface level, but when we communicate with them, then we get to understand their problems, their sufferings. Alright? So, the same is reflected in the story as well. So, let us start with the introduction. Students, before introduction, let me ask you, what is the definition of a handicapped person? Is it the one who is not having legs, hands, eyes, or any organ of a perfect body? Or the ones who are not willing to do anything for the society, for themselves, for the nation? Even though they are perfectly formed and they don't have any disability, they are not willing to use their skills. They don't think that their contribution matters in the society for the growth. You will find the answer after we read this play. Students, the play On the Face of It deals with loss and sense of isolation and how an individual should deal with it. One must brave every situation in one's life bravely and accept whatever comes one's way with utmost enthusiasm, like Mr. Lamb does. Grumbling over our handicaps will lead us nowhere. Let's talk about the theme of the story now. The first theme that runs in the story is appearances are deceptive. Next theme is the actual pain is not physical impairment, but the sense of alienation that society gives to a handicapped person. Next important theme is physical deformity never changes a person. What they are from within, that matters, and eventually they are creation of God. They are also human beings just like us. Let's move towards the protagonists of the story. There are two protagonists, Mr. Lamb and Derek. Mr. Lamb is a philanthropist, okay, who loves mankind. He is optimistic person. He is the one who can see positive things in each and every creature that God has made. He is gregarious in nature, down to earth, extrovert, and he says that all the human beings are made by God and we should respect them. Whereas Derek, initially we find him as very rude, boisterous, untamed child, but who is full of negativity, and this has happened because society segregated him from the mainstream. Okay, but later on, in association with Mr. Lamb, he changes. Mr. Lamb's positivity, Mr. Lamb's optimism was able to change Derek, and we find a different Derek at the end of the story. So, without wasting time, let us begin with the summary. The play, on the face of it, is divided into three scenes, with the first one being the longest because it is here that Derek, the boy of 14, undergoes a metamorphosis or change. The play features an elderly gentleman, Mr. Lamb, and a young lad of 14 who meet in the farmer's, that is Mr. Lamb's garden. The lad enters the garden stealthily, thinking it to be empty, but is startled by Mr. Lamb's advice, mind the apples. The young boy is confused and also feels guilty because he had entered the garden out of curiosity, thinking it is empty, and comes across Mr. Lamb. He is consequently quite embarrassed and wants to go home. However, Mr. Lamb reassures him by telling him that he does not mind strangers entering his garden or his house, and he keeps all the gates of the house and the garden open. He tells Derek that he need not be afraid of anything. Mr. Lamb does not know that Derek is a complex-ridden lad, so he is surprised when Derek reacts haughtily to the word afraid and tells him that people are afraid of him because of his ugly face, one side of which got burnt because of acid. Mr. Lamb does not react as expected by the boy. Instead, he stays cool and tells Derek that he is going to make jelly out of the ripe apples. However, Derek does not like this change of topic. Mr. Lamb tries to build up the boy's confidence by telling him that he loves all creatures made by God and that nothing in this world is so worthless that it deserves to be considered as trash. Even weeds have their own value. At this stage, Mr. Lamb tells him that he too is handicapped and has a tin leg because the real one has got blown off in war. Now, whenever he goes out, children tease him by calling him Lammy Lamb. But he does not mind it. He advises Derek to ignore people's comments. Derek, however, is bursting with anger against his world and is critical of his mother because she kisses him only on the good side of the face. Mr. Lamb tries to deal with the negative attitude of the lad in a positive way and advises him to think of the beautiful objects of the world. Derek feels interested in the unusual conversation and ideas of Mr. Lamb and takes some interest in what he says. And at this point of time, Derek makes a meaningful comment by saying, "Think of all those people worse off than you." However, bitterness once again takes the better of Derek as he is reminded of the comments of the people about him, to which Mr. Lamb answers meaningfully, "So you believe everything you hear then?" indirectly advising him to hear only those things that are worth hearing. Meanwhile, Mr. Lamb does not forget the task before him and thinks of his beehive and musical humming bees. Some people, however, call it buzzing. It is the attitude in life that matters, he says, realizing that Derek is interested in what he says. Mr. Lamb narrates the incident of a timid man who refused to come out of the house lest he should meet some fatal accident, but died in his room itself because a picture fell off the wall on his head and killed him. Through this story, Mr. Lamb wants to bring home the idea that one cannot change one's destiny. The story makes Derek laugh heartily, and from now on, his attitude towards Mr. Lamb is particular, and life is general start taking a U-turn. Mr. Lamb tells him that he dislikes curtains because they shut out things. Derek thinks of what members of his family thinks about him and is reminded of their pitying attitude towards him. Mr. Lamb has an encouraging words of every passive and pessimistic observation of Derek. He reminds Derek of the positive things he has, like strong legs, eyes, ears, tongue, and brain, etc., and advises him to set his mind to doing things in order to be better than all the rest. Words of wisdom continues to flow from Mr. Lamb's mouth, and he tells him that every human being is his friend and that it is not necessary to be acquainted with one in order to be one's friend. He considers Derek to be his friend. He also tells him about the importance of people. People are never just nothing, never. He says and advises Derek to love all mankind because hatred corrodes us and hurts more than acid. Mr. Lamb assures Derek that whatever belongs to him is his, if he likes it. Derek's problem was that he was over-obsessed with himself, but now, for the first time, he talks about Lamb and his handicap. If you fell from a ladder and broke your neck, you could lie on the grass and die. If you were on your own, Lamb, who has faith in destiny, gives a cryptic answer. I could. Derek knows that his presence in Lamb's house could help him, but at this stage he is worried about his mother. However, Lamb comes out with a philosophical answer. People worry. Mr. Lamb, who is a good judge of others, now knows that his conversation with Derek has started having a positive effect on Derek. Now he springs up a surprise, a challenge before Derek that he will never come back. His purpose is to help Derek overcome all the hurdles, hesitations, handicaps, and complexes that stop him. Derek's mind is set. He is a changed lad now. He runs home and tells his mother about his decision to go back to his new mentor. And in spite of her protest, he runs back to Mr. Lamb's garden. But the irony is that perhaps Derek's apprehensions have proved prophetic and Mr. Lamb has fallen down along with the ladder and does not respond to Derek's words. Perhaps he is dead, but he has trained and tutored one of the next generation to carry on his good work before passing off to the next world. Students, through this play we learn that physically impaired people are already suffering because of their deformity. We should not create additional burden, additional humiliation, additional pain to their life. Instead, we should be sympathetic, compassionate, and helpful at the level which is permissible for us. In order to curve all these distances between normal people and specially abled people, government has introduced a new policy a couple of years ago, and that is inclusive education, where even handicapped people can learn together with all other normal students. This will create a sense of love, care, and they will understand the pain of their fellow mates. And according to the psychology, the things that children learn at their initial stage, they hardly forget. So, here, through inclusive education, they learn to sympathize with handicapped friends, and the same will be taken to later life as well when they become mature. So, here, these are the responsibilities of a normal person. And before criticizing, we should keep in mind that anything can happen to anyone. Today we are perfectly formed, but God forbid, if anything mishap occurs to us, then even we will have to suffer in this society. So it's better we create a society which is sympathetic towards handicapped people and enthusiastic and dedicated to decrease their physical pain at their level. Students, I hope this play will bring about a change in us and we can create a healthier world for them. We will meet in our next video. Thank you. Take care.